That is called MKUltra. That's electronic warfare by the Florida Sheriff's Association criminal organization here in the state of Florida, by criminal cops who are doing 24/7 surveillance on me and using electronic warfare. And for those of you who don't believe that, you have to have extreme willful ignorance to not realize how absolutely insane the corruption is here on Earth. So, I'm a businessman building a business, and I refuse to take money from investors. Okay? And that basically means, hey, bro, we're going to take 99% of your business, and we're going to make 3 phone calls. No promises. But you'll have 1% of your business, and I'll make 3 phone calls. Okay? I'm a capitalist, not a crony. Okay? That means I believe in freedom. It doesn't mean that I tolerate criminal activity. I have to an extent. And these people know it because they've completely surrounded my entire life. My sister married a Satanist. And to give you guys an idea of just how just some of the levels of, how out of control MKUltra is. And you have to go back to, let's start with 1871, where the traders usurped the United States of America's government and converted it into a corporation. Okay. Now, a corporation is supposed to be a form of business, but a business is for profit, which means you're not neutral if you're for profit, right? Well, government's supposed to be neutral. That's the point of it. If you have a problem, but we don't have a government. There is no government. Well, I see a government, right? That's if you base things purely off of appearance, then you will get nowhere meaningful in life. You have to go based off of substance. Now let's get forward to the 20th century. In the 1970s, the CIA, part of the United States of America criminal organization that is not the country, it's not the sovereign country, it's a corporation, criminal corporation masquerading as government, okay, created, subsidies. They're all subsidies, corporate subsidies. And one of them is the CIA. And they created a device where if you're in a room full of people and they can make just you hear a sound and no one else, okay? That's in the 1970s. Then you have the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and here we are in 2025. And people wonder, with $30 trillion plus of national debt, which there is no debt because we don't owe criminals money, okay? And we wonder, what have they been doing with all that time and all the money that they've stolen? Because people willingly give money to criminals because they don't verify anything. And so now I have a family member who is screaming and crying their eyes out because they are being targeted with electronic warfare based off of MKUltra from the CIA. And now, how do I know this stuff? So I'm going to knock on a few surfaces. So here's my desk. Okay, here's my desk. Here's my monitor. Okay, that's plastic. Those are different sounds. Okay, and so when I was getting out of my car in front of my CIA handler's house a few years ago, I hit sheet metal. There's nothing there. There's a tree like 20 or 30 feet away. The lowest branches you can't touch even if you get on the roof of the car and you reached out. Okay, so confirmed. All right, so they've got invisible cameras, invisible drones that are mostly silent and mostly invisible. Keyword, mostly. Okay, and so basically, if you think about some of and by the way, before we get too much further, I probably will never meet most of the people who watch this video. Okay, so I don't know anything about whoever's watching this video for the most part. So let me ask you this, because I don't know you, and I will never meet you, most people who watch this video, does that negate the fact that you exist? Of course you exist, okay? And all your life experiences and what you think and feel and all that stuff and what you do, it all matters to you. Now, just because I don't know you exist, okay? The same thing is with my experiences. Okay, so when I share things like an example, realizing years later, after I become much more aware, conscientious, and whatnot, of literal criminal cops, criminal satanic cops using electronic warfare to communicate and harass me through family members. Because remember, I'm building a business, okay, and I'm refusing to take money from bros pretending to be investors, okay. They're having my family members tell me absolutely horrible things about topics that I care a lot about, freedom and culture, okay, that they hate because remember, they all work for slavers. It's all Marxism, communism. It's all about slavery, the abolishment of private property. Who doesn't own private property? Slaves. Okay? So basically, all this control bullshit is all about slavery. It's all about slavery. So now, make it as abundantly clear as possible. This is all death sentence level stuff. This is multiple counts of the death sentence. Okay? Not, oh, it's punishable, but we might. No, it is punished by the death penalty. Okay? So, yeah, someone's going to text, and that's probably a family member being told, yep, an emotionally volatile text. Okay? And part of this right now is basically they want to dictate and control my life. All right, and this is very, very simple. All right, and all this is because I watered some plants that the family member does not water. Okay, and that was when you're on camera and you're spending 10 minutes watering plants to take care of a family member's plants because they don't have things all straightened out in life. Okay, and you're helping people. Helping people is not a reason to be screamed at. And it's sure as hell not a reason for satanic cops working for the Florida Sheriff's Association. Okay, and I've actually helped some of them move. I've hung out. I treated them like friends. And this is the type of shit. Now, okay, give you guys some more insight into the levels of control. Okay, because apparently there's over 40 levels, vertical and horizontal levels of secrecy in the fake government. Okay, so about 13 months ago, this time in 2024, someone was rigged to come into my life and bring up a topic that was designed to piss off the regular people who regularly monitor me. Okay, and so basically between like October and December of 2024, they were doing regular death threats. You know, oh, we're going to come in and shoot you and all this other stuff. And the purpose of that, okay, is because I am against the cabal, the global cabal that is all about slavery. All right. And so basically, they will tell you what they're going to do because they think they're immune. And the beautiful thing is, they are not. Okay. Now they have her making noise in the background and whatnot. And so basically, what they said was, we're going to destroy your personality and make you more agreeable. Okay. Which basically means they want to kill me. All right. Now you say, well, they're not going to destroy your body. Well, your mind is part of the body. Okay. And here they are. You know, they're triggering her again. And so basically, the point is that you need to be aware, and you can't be afraid. You don't give in to intimidation. You don't give in to. There's all these methodologies that you use. It's all real, whether you believe it or not. Existence is real, and all the things in it. And when we're looking at invaders, all right, they're not immigrants, and we're talking about invaders, and they're raping women and children and all this stuff. These people all support this stuff. In fact, there's a video. And I want to make it clear: not all cops are absolutely horrible pieces of shit. Okay, there's one cop that was in a video actually last night, and in his criminal organization. Okay, remember each person has their own intention. Good and evil is intention. Okay, and there's someone's talking to a microphone right now, literally programming her to speak and say, I hate you, etc. Okay, because they want me to move out as fast as possible when I start making money. Okay, and so basically part of what that criminal organization did, and I don't remember offhand where it was, but basically they were running gang rapes, and anytime that they abducted, because remember, police are corporate policy enforcers. They're not law enforcement, because law enforcement requires law, and law requires government, and government requires neutrality. Corporations, not neutral. Okay, so police cannot actually arrest you; they can only abduct you under false pretense. Okay, there's more screaming, so they're all pissed off. Okay, and I might just skip the entire week and throw everyone's plans out the window, because why not? I mean, there's got to be consequences. And when people say, "Oh, we're going to take advantage of this, and we're going to put this person in this position, and we're going to try to make them all emotional and impulsively do this or that, whatnot," and there's tons of weapons, but we'll get into that later on. So basically, this hero, I guess I'm going to call him a hero cop, and he found out that the chief of the police criminal organization at wherever the heck he was working had his daughter's phone number on his phone, meaning he was targeting this other cop's daughter to rape. That's what they do. Not all of them, but some of them. And this police criminal organization was literally targeting women, saying, "Oh, we're going to keep you fully abducted and maximum all these fake things." Because remember, it's not law. It's not law enforcement. There's aren't jails. There are dungeons. All right, a jail is lawful. A dungeon is not. Those are dungeons by definition. And they don't use English. They use legalese, which is a criminal language. So an example, when a criminal policy enforcer pulls you over, okay, they're going to try to convince you that you are driving a car instead of driving a vehicle instead of traveling in your car. So legalese intentionally tries to misrepresent things and to try to get you to agree that they have authority, because it's all false appearance. You got the emergency lights, right? That's a crime, because you're signaling that, hey, I have authority. They do not. Okay? If I dress up like a vampire, that doesn't make me a vampire. If I dress up like, Mega Man, I'm not Mega Man. I'm still me, just being weird, but I'm not going to do that. Okay? So if someone who has zero authority comes at you with flashing lights, that's not law enforcement. That's someone masquerading, committing a crime, and we're talking multiple crimes. Anyway, we're going to go back to CIA and MKUltra. So all of this stuff is mind control. And so part of the latest thing that they're attacking on me is because they know I'm against the cabal, they know I'm against slavery, they know I'm against crime, they know I'm pro-freedom, pro-America. It doesn't help my case that I'm a white, no, I'm European, but I'm quote-unquote white. I'm male. Well, yes, I'm male, but I'm a man, all right? Because there's a difference between a male and a man. Because men, regardless of race, don't rape. Males rape. What's the difference between a male and a man? A man has a mind and the body. A male has the body, but not the mind. That's the difference, okay? And these distinctions we need to be making. So anyway, yeah, I've got names, I've got tons of documentation. I have probably documented, I'd probably say a few hundred instances of attacks. This just keeps going on and on. That's MKUltra, right there. Thank you for the evidence.
I hate you. Oh, I fucking hate the day I ever gave birth to you.
I love my mother, and I hate the criminal cops attacking her. And I hope they all get caught and put in jail and shot in the most painful, slow death manner possible. Because that's what any patriotic American would want. Death to traitors. They don't know what to say to that, because if they were good people, they wouldn't be doing this. All right, or they would quit and go find a legitimate job. All right. So, and on top of that, you can tell how this stuff works. So, an example, they have contracts. Okay, there are people who have spent, I don't know, 20 years of their life since I was discovered in 2008. Okay, and so basically, yeah, I'm not really listening to what they're, because they will literally, it literally had
Go ahead, you sicko. You want my plant to die? Go ahead and enjoy it.
yeah.
Go ahead and have a good time.
See, that's
killing my
MKUltra.
plants. Go ahead, cause I'll come right back at you.
MKUltra, satanic cops. So another thing. So how do I know they're satanic cops? All right. So they can make you move your butt. They have, remember that we're talking about $30 trillion. We're talking about people who literally make money out of thin air. Okay, and they can say we have all the money we want, and just have people do tons and tons of research. And so they figured out how to make, like when Trump moved his head, and they can control both the shooter and the supposed target. All this stuff is rigged. All of it. All of it. When you look at things like the moon landings, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, I'm a conspiracy realist. Who's the first person on the moon? Neil Armstrong's cameraman. Who set up the camera? 40 feet from, right? 40 feet from the lander, right? Because all you had to do is do research. Yeah, see, there we go. So basically, all you got to do is there's tons of material, but you have to know how to find it and where to find it. And so,
Go ahead and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Cause your days are numbered in my home.
MKUltra. I don't know how well that's picked up on the camera here, but I'm presuming it's picking up pretty well because she's screaming through the door. It's about the same volume. Anyway, where was I? We're talking about MKUltra. We're talking about satanic cops. So there's that whole hand signal where they raise the pinky, the pointing finger, and the thumb, and it's supposed to make the devil's horns. All right. Now that's all cult bullshit. Okay. And so the way the cabal works is everyone has multiple demographics. All right. And demographics includes your race, your religion, if you have a religion or lack of religion, your age, what you do for work, whatever. And so everyone has multiple demographics. And so belief is a demographic, or lack of belief. Okay. And so it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't really give a shit about whatever the hell most people believe. But a lot of the satanic shit comes around from early religions, like especially Judaism, which, by the way, allows like raping children and stuff like that. Oh, that's fun stuff, right? All religions are pretty terrible when you realize that the whole point of every religion, okay, every religion. Now, I respect people's right to believe whatever they want, but acting on things, that's where people get in trouble. And so the core belief of all religions is that someone else is going to come and help you. You have to help yourself. You have to say, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to give in to whatever the bullshit and all these tactics. And it's a difference, and here's the thing. There's a difference between thinking ahead of saying, how we're going to deal with this issue if it becomes an issue, all right? To give you just an idea of the scope of the level of attention on my life, or keeping in mind that I've been allowed to make like $2,000 a year for the past 3 or 4 years. That's it, all right? So when I decide I'm not going to take money from other people, that's, investors take money from clients, and they gave me nothing but absolute trash clients. These people want to have total control. You say no. I believe one of the sayings is better dead than red. Red being Marxist. Marxist being Karl Marx, the author of Communist Manifesto, the whole abolishment of private property, that's slavery. Right? Those are the dots, those are the lines. And so it's better to be dead than a slave. All right. Now, why am I wearing this shirt instead of the regular shirt? Because I came across something very interesting, where you have the collar around here and you have cuffs. Well, who else wore collars and cuffs? Slaves. And you notice that the collars and cuffs are very tight. All right. So that's enough. It's all there, whether you realize it or not. Okay. So basically, I don't have a script or anything for this video. I'm just kind of doing this video offhand. But MKUltra, it's everywhere. You got to protect yourself against 5G and whatnot, whether you think it's real or not. And I've got tons of pictures and videos and evidence. Like people, well, that doesn't hold up in a court of law. Right, because there are no courts of law. All of it is correct. All of it. Every last, there's not a single court of law. Okay? And I don't have time to be posting all this, every little script. I don't have time to do video editing and whatnot. But, one day I'll make sure the material is much more digestible. So if you ever see me being like, pro countries or anti countries, and that's not the United States, then that's not me. Okay. If you guys see me, saying something that's like woke or any of that bullshit, woke is just another word for Marxist. It's all Marxist. It's all slavery. All right. But use Marxism and slavery together so people know what exactly we're talking about. Okay. So, yeah. It's all control and bullshit. And these people, they have no respect. They have no respect. And they've been trained to have no respect. So you have the Florida Sheriff's Association. They're not sheriffs, because sheriffs requires law requires government, etc. Okay. You have to enforce natural law yourself. You have to defend yourself. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're 10 years old, you're going to be the one pointing the gun to defend yourself, because no one's coming to save you. Everyone has to be trained to carry firearms. Of course, I don't have any firearms because I'm not allowed. Because I'm not allowed to have the money to protect myself, to make money, because everything's about controlling my life. All right, and in the end, you either cooperate with criminals and you make the world worse, and it's already pretty bad, or you refuse. And when you refuse, either like if you're too valuable to them for whatever reason, they'll put a chip in your head. All right, they put a chip in my hand. That's a death penalty. All right. So I have to have that removed. They put something in my head somewhere too, and I'm not going to say how I know that, but I know that. Yeah. So there's a lot of shit going on. All of that is executable. All of that is pro-slavery, and slavery is the most disgusting. It's for lazy people who want to live off of other people's making an effort, but while there's nothing lower than a slaver, and all slavers should be just. What's the term I'm looking for? They'll claim violence, all right, but it's righteous force. Righteous force is not violence. Righteous force is like if you come across someone being raped and you shoot and you kill the rapist, that's righteous force. When that cop came in and he shot his boss who's running a gang rape operation, that's righteous force. He should be celebrated. He should be in a dungeon. He should be celebrated. All right, and that's another thing. Because like when we're talking about like whoever introduced that person about 13 months ago, back in maybe early midsummer 2024, because they knew I was going to say, because you're not allowed to record. You're not allowed to record in these criminal banking offices, which are what they actually are, okay, masquerading as courts of law. Well, they're supposed to be public servants, right? So all that stuff is supposed to be publicly accessible. Why don't they allow recording? Because it's all criminal. And when you see what's going on in there, you know it's criminal. Now, yeah, some of them might have standards, and some of them don't. There's a range. Some of them explicitly know it's criminal. I mean, every cop that's on duty watching me 24/7, they have meetings on Sundays apparently. All right, and they all know everything I'm talking about. I mean, I've talked with a lot of them. Apparently, figuring out years later, okay, that guy was a cop or that woman was a cop. Okay, and they don't mind hounding and making fun of their victims. They don't. They have no respect for people. All right. Now, I'm going to say that some of them might be more respectable than others. I might say that some of them don't want to be, committing crimes, but I don't know because I'm not sitting in their house at a computer with monitors with multiple cameras in my family's house, okay, watching, saying, I wonder what John's going to do, or is John's not working, or John's not doing this, or what. I'm not part of that conversation. I'm the focal point of that, okay, and so why is all this attention on me? Why would anyone give a shit what I'm doing? If I'm making $2,000 a year, not a month, a year, okay, because I'm building a business, I'm refusing to take money from investor bros who are not actually investors, okay, I do technology, okay, and I'm mentally awake, I'm alert, I'm paying attention, I see evil, I point evil, I don't let evil talk me down, I don't let evil intimidate me, evil's not going to get away with this shit. I don't want to hate people, right? And it's like, oh, you're not allowed to hate. Hate is evil. No. If someone rapes your mother, your sister, your daughter, you have every right in the world to hate, okay? That's attempting to control your ability to, it's like, that's an emotion. That is the correct emotional response. If someone robs, your brother, you have the right to hate them because you're doing financial damage. And now maybe that's the 1 week that they can't get to the job interview of the one job that they finally got that they can get into and turn their life around, and they can't do it. And that guy who works there doesn't give a damn because it's his fault that he didn't defend himself or whatever the excuse is. All of this stuff is about control. It's all control. It's all slavery. It's all Marxism. And I'm not going to go too much deeper into that stuff. But yeah, they don't give a shit. And the key thing is you have to be aware of this stuff. You have to be aware. The dots and lines, they're all there. Okay? When you say, oh, there we go, triggering her again. So I've had conversations like, really, we used to like you. Well, that's because I became aware of what's going on. I became aware of the weapons. I became aware. I think there are people who are legitimately want to see me succeed and help people. I do think that. But a lot of it is like, I'll give you an example. The moment I move out and I get crazy busy, I'm gonna be too busy to move, and I'm gonna be stranded in Florida. Okay. And I said, I'm not doing romance in Florida. I don't live in Florida. I reside in Florida. All right. In fact, the whole reason I'm in Florida to begin with might go all the way back to when I was going to a boarding school back in high school. And the only reason I ended up in that they're still having another attack on it. And the only reason I ended up in a boarding school. You done? And no, there we go. Right, because watering plants is a reason to be screaming for 2 or 3 hours straight. Right? So anyway, and yes, there's mental illness there, but it's not at that level because when you can see the weapons, like an example, they've used the weapons to do the reverse, where they put her in a very agreeable mood. All right, there shouldn't be weapons at all. Period. I'll give you an example. My handler, okay. I had nothing but a very positive conversation to have about a potential client, right? And they took everything positive was saying, twisting 180 degrees, and just absolutely shitting over the entire conversation. And the next time I had spoken with her, you could tell that she had to be under attack by a weapon, because given like a very stern, severe conversation versus being under attack by weapon, you can tell the subtle differences between how a person acts and reacts. You can be aware of when you're under attack. So an example, I was on a Zoom meeting a few years ago. Now I'm a capitalist. That means I'm against cronyism and corruption. Okay, there we go. Another attack on her. You can just do like a dial, like a volume dial. All right, and it'll speak into a microphone. There's amazing senses that we have that we're not quite keen on, but you can see the mouth in front of the microphone at the cop's house as they're talking into the microphone and attacking my mother. Okay, and I document all this stuff because one day they are going to be they're going to be standing and accountable. They're going to be held accountable. You know, because that is MKUltra. Okay, and that's once every couple minutes they're doing this. Okay, now I'm going to post this video. This is completely. I have no. She hates me so much because I watered the plants. That is not normal. And the thing is, like, to give me an example, I've seen families destroyed because, an example, one of the two parents suddenly changed and is being completely terrible. I've had two of my family members murdered by these people in another state. I've had another family member do just absolutely humiliating things, and this is all criminal. This is all satanic shit. These are all slavers. This is all real, whether you believe it or not. Whether you can perceive these electronic weapons or not. And it would say, "Oh, you're wearing a tinfoil hat." Why would they mock a tinfoil hat? Because it blocks the signal. It's the brain. The brain is a it's a biological computer, but still a computer. Input output, and you can override the computer. So I was on Zoom, and they made me say, "Put them out of business." That's not something a capitalist would say. That's something a crony would say. And then I was walking before we moved earlier this year. We were at a condo for a few years, and there was another one of these encounters. And there was a woman who was like, she was conducting, okay, and I suddenly said something kind of like smooth and soft, but I was like, you could tell, like, we are puppeteering you right now, right? Puppet bullshit, okay? And so, of course, what kind of mentality would you have to use electronic weapons to puppeteer someone? A very, very low mentality, especially someone who's way more intelligent than you, okay? Because smart people don't do the shit, okay? Competent people don't commit crimes. Capable people, so that's the difference between capable and competent. Competent people don't have the time to waste imposing on other people's rights. Capable people aren't inherently competent, because you could be capable of doing a heinous crime, okay? Like attacking someone with electronic weapons, right? So I've been attacked. I give another perfect example of how strange. I've had one of my mother, father, I'm not going to say which one. I've had my sister and the satanic brother-in-law standing there while I was having kidney stones. All right, and this was after the whole we're going to kill you thing blew over back in it's not really winter in Florida, but winter-ish area of 2024, 2025, and they intentionally refused to take me 1 mile in the car to the hospital to get treated for a kidney stone. Okay, so they're Satanists because they like seeing pain inflicted on other people. All right, so I mean, I'm not sure what charge that would be, but that's a pretty bad charge. All right. We're literally talking about literally tens of thousands of charges, but you only need one charge of high treason for the death sentence. That's it. Guaranteed, not maybe death sentence, is a death sentence. Okay? So I had to spend the small pittance of money. Actually, no, I did have a contact Had a contact, and thankfully they got, but burned bridges, and they got all scared when I explained what's going on with the attacks. Why raise a family? Why spend years and years and years of your life raising a family? Okay, and then when someone's telling you the crimes that are happening, and you get scared and oh, I'm not going to talk to this person. Why? You got to be a real man. You need to know about the threats. You need to be how to protect against them. You need to look for the signs. These people are they're destroying everything. They're Marxists. They're slaver parasites, right? Apparently they've killed 1 billion people in China. All right. Oh, we're doing tariffs, so that's why the price is raised. No, the price is raised because there's no more manufacturing, because there's no more people in the plant. So you just go on like China Observer or whatever on YouTube, and the cities are empty. They're empty. Have you seen the cities and they're doing this stuff here in the United States. And you look at some of the malls, and they've got literal guard towers at the malls, where they're gutting like Walmarts and some of these other stores in the cities they're going to be targeting. So like and they're like, why would he hate Satanists? And you have someone doing electronic warfare against my family members and making them do the hand signals, or while I'm having a conversation with them, knowing that's not my family member that I'm talking with. That's a cop attacking my family. Okay? You talk about criminal activity. You spread the word about the criminal activity, and you prepare to defend yourself directly against the criminal activity. You never call the cops. You never cooperate with the cops. You never talk with the cops. And you never answer. The most important thing with the cops is you never answer a question with cops, because they will use that to interpret that you are somehow consenting. So I give you an example of false consent. Fraud by tacit consent. Right? So tacit consent, there's no such thing as tacit consent. I will give you an example. If you're standing in what you think is a court of law, again, there are 0 courts of law, okay? And the fake judge is going to make a decision on your behalf. They're doing it. They're doing the volume dial again, attacking my family member. And so when you're standing there and you don't know how to respond, because it's all criminal, so no one's going to know how to. No one thinks, oh, I'm in a criminal banker office. They're thinking it's a court because it looks like a court, or looks what you would think is a court. We haven't had courts since the 1870s, literally 1870. Okay, no one alive knows what a court looks like. Okay, and so you have no idea what decision to make, because no matter what you do, they're trying to screw you over. You know that, but you don't know it as explicitly, right? And so that's fraud by tacit consent, when the fake judge implies the decision on your behalf. All right. What's another example of tacit consent? You're in college, and a woman passes out, and one of the bros says, she can't say no, bro, so it ain't rape. That's tacit consent, because if a woman's unconscious, she can't consent. A lack of going against something is not for something. All right, because it's like you can have, undecided is not a decision. Undecided is no decision has been made, whether because you don't have the capacity to make a decision because you're out, because you've been drugged or lost consciousness because of alcohol. There goes the volume again. Okay, and so that's fraud by tacit consent, where they imply consent, and you got to be very careful with how that works, because criminals will use. They've had hundreds of years to figure out how all this stuff works, and you come across a video like mine, you're like, wow, this guy sounds crazy, but here's the thing: is if you look enough, you make any effort to look and say, why is my life the way it is instead of the way it should be? Shouldn't we have free energy? Free energy is a thing. Okay, there's tons of energy everywhere. All right, shouldn't we have amazing technology and flying cars? No, we don't have that. We have invasions in European countries, like Australia. Like, no, I don't mean European as in it's in Europe. I mean countries of the European people, Canada, America, European countries in physically Europe, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. Why? No offense to people of other races, but we just have been doing better than other people. And what do slavers want? They want to destroy intelligent people. That's why they target people like me. That's why they target Europeans. That's why they want to kill Europeans. That's why we went from 95% European here in the United States of America to like what, 65%, 62%, something like that. And they gloat about that. All right, it's like, and then you look at now. There are like Thomas Sowell, Sowwell. I'm not quite sure. You know, he grew up around Marxists, but he wasn't a real Marxist because he was a decent human being. Okay, and when he realized what he was participating in, he saw the damage, and he realized that there are people who were against that, and they clarified. Well, he said, "No, I don't want to do that anymore." He didn't know what he was doing. But a lot of these people, they do know what they're doing. A lot of people, like that police chief that was running a gang rape organization. All right, so that cop that shot him. I don't. Maybe he was neutral. Maybe he looked past it. Maybe it took a serious waking up, but he did the right thing finally. And we need everyone to be doing the right thing. Because if we don't do that, they killed 1 billion people in China. How many? There's not 1 billion people here in the United States. How many people are in? Not everyone who watches these videos is in the United States of America. How many people are in your country? They can kill 1 billion people like that, and it's not a news, right? You got to do some research, all right? All you notice is that the prices are high and the excuse is tariffs, all right? And that's another thing. Let's look at Trump. Again, I don't care about the politics. I don't care about political parties and whatnot. Left wing, right wing, guess what? Left wing and right wing are part of the same bird. It's all bullshit. Oh, they're doing the dial. They're attacking my family member again. Yep. So basically, your goal as a human being is to be anti-political, not political. Politics is the art of fraud. All right. Govern is not. If we had govern is supposed to be neutral. All right. It's like that's what I like about being me. For the most part, I'm pretty neutral. All right. I don't. So it's like, are you for Ukraine or Russia? I'm for the United States of America. So not my countries, not my battle. I'm neutral. All right. So what's the point of having filthy neutrals? No, neutrality is beautiful. All right. So let's say you have a conflict between two people or two groups. Doesn't matter what the people or groups are. Right. You have a conflict. If someone doesn't have any stake in it, right? They don't have any stake in the outcome, and they're trying to do the right thing. That's neutral and honorable. That's how we resolve problems. But Marxists want problems. They want bullshit. That's why they do things like MKUltra. That's why they destroy families. That's why you're not working on a job that you could be working on. That's why most people my age and younger don't own homes. Why? That's not a coincidence. That's by design. Right? They want people not owning their homes. By the way, if you don't have an alludial title, then it's not really a title. Even if you've paid off your house, and then you have bullshit like taxes, all that's criminal. You don't pay taxes. When you pay taxes, you are literally aiding and abetting criminals, because it all goes to a criminal system. You don't pay taxes. People don't get that. They say, well, if I don't pay taxes, they're going to come and get me. No. One of these people called me a warlock. Okay, whatever. It's a title. All right, someone called me a warlock. Why? Because I realized language. All right, so I'll give you an example. Okay? The kings of England didn't originally speak English. They spoke French. Right? And so when you look at the English language, there's a lot of disgusting things in the English language. So, like the word father. Split the word father in half. Where do you get fat, her? Okay. Breakfast. What is breakfast? When you break your fast, because you have it after you get up in the morning. Well, why would you be mourning after you've waken up? You're not M-O-R-N, you are M-O-U-R-N. Okay? You're mourning, you're crying, you're weeping. All right? I don't have a weak, I had a strong. So W-E-E-K sounds a lot like W-E-A-K, because they want you weakened. All right. Well, Saturday and Sunday, after the end of the week, you have been weekend. WEAKENED. Okay. But you don't think about this stuff. And so apparently, being aware of this stuff makes me a warlock. But I don't care about titles. I care about people. I don't care about virtue signal bullshit. I care about action. I care about doing the right thing and helping people. Okay? When we look at, especially because I'm running a business, all right, that means I'm in a position to help a lot of people. All right? So we go back to Karl Marx and all that bullshit. What is that? They want to control the means of production, meaning they want to control the people who are productive members of society, because how many people are going to make the sacrifice to build a business? There's a lot of us, but when you look at to the whole, it's very few people. When my nation, because my country is the United States of America, my nation, my nationality is Polish. All right. So when the Nazis, socialist Nazi Germany, what's a socialist? It's a soft Marxist. It's like the dope of politics to get into Marxism. Right? You vote. You can't actually vote socialist, right? But you vote yourself into socialism, whereas communism invades, right? That's supposedly like the difference. And so basically, what do? They targeted our leadership. That's what filthy slaver parasites do. Their goal is to destroy and control everything, which doesn't make any sense, because if you destroy and control everything, you don't have anything. And where are we going? To the stars. And when you look at the fake images from NASA, not a space agency. NASA is not a space agency. That's literally what it stands for. Not a space agency. The IRS, THE, the IRS. Theirs. It's not theirs, it's ours. Okay? And so you either realize that when you're interacting with these criminals, you either know how to deal with them or you don't. And if you don't know how to deal with them, you need to educate yourself. You need to talk to people who know how to deal with these people. All right? And I don't have all the answers. I have quite a few number of answers, but I'm under attack practically every moment of my life. And when I'm documenting literally hundreds, if not thousands, of attacks, and you remember, like, how do you subdivide? Like, if you're under control by a weapon, all right, like my family member has been, okay, like, do we subdivide it by minutes? By hours? Where are those instances? Okay? And, how many cameras are in your room? Invisible cameras that you mostly can't see, that you mostly can't hear, okay? And how many cameras are in your wife's, in the bathroom while your wife or your sister or your mother or your daughter is getting changed, or in the shower? And there's a lot of it's absolutely completely, and I'm sure there's gay cops too, watching you, all right, yanking it away, no idea, So at the end of the day, you're going to make the decision. Are you going to give in to fear and intimidation and all this other bullshit? Or are you going to say, something's not right and something needs to be done, and I'm not going to become a victim? By the way, there's the difference between a victim and victimhood mentality. All right? If you're under attack, you're a victim no matter what. All right? But you don't have to own it and say, oh, look at me, I'm a victim. No. Because I'm technically a victim. Technically. All right? We're all technically victims. Because we all have nanoparticle bullshit. We all have the chemtrail bullshit that we all breathe in. We're all been victimized, all right? The key thing is how do you know how to interpret things? Like an example, I can't tell you what you should do in these situations, but I've mentioned, righteous force. You have to know when is the appropriate time to use righteous force, all right? What are the other means that you can do? Because not everyone wants to go out and do that stuff. Now, we're doing the volume again. Okay. So, it's all criminal. And you cannot be passive. You cannot shrink away in fear and it'll go away. That's how it gets worse. When you shrink away in fear, you give in to these criminals. They're there. They have addresses. They're flesh and blood like you and I. They got to sleep. They're literally doing nothing but committing crimes morning, noon, and night. And there are people, and all the stuff is being suppressed just because it's suppressed. What stuff have you suffered? And then I'm going to ask you this question. What have you suffered by these criminals that you probably don't even realize? What have you lost? What could you have had that you could have been justified in having? What is the amazing person, what is the amazing level of personal development that you could have achieved if you weren't living in this hellhole created by these people? Heaven and hell, there's no afterlife, there's none of that stuff. Heaven and hell is other people. And we don't have a heaven here on earth because people shrink away in fear. We have a hell because people shrink away in fear. Because someone else is going to take care of it. Because we go back to those religions, we go back to those cults. Someone else is going to save you. No one else is going to save you. And right now, instead of getting my work done, instead of making sure I have the lights off and I'm going to go to bed and be on a certain schedule, I got to go ahead and I got to post this video. And I know that every single cop that they're going to be watching this, they're probably going to be required to watch this. All right, that's their fault. They're the ones who chose to do this. Okay, I don't know if they're like compelled. I don't know if they've got some bullshit over them, or if they find people say, hey, we're going to force you to do this whether you want to or not, and some of them agree that, oh yeah, hey, that's fantastic, and some like they don't really give a shit either way, and some of them like they don't want to, but they've been compelled for some reason. I don't know. Right? It's the same thing. Everyone's circumstances are different. But at the end of the day, you commit a crime, you're committing a crime. So, for those of you who, download the raw video. Go look up on Google or just DuckDuckGo, whatever. Download YouTube video. It will literally get you like the MK4 or the video format, not MKUltra, but MK4, MP4, AVI, whatever the video format, and you'll have the raw video, right? So if I blow it up one day, all right, and I'm all over the place, okay, it's something. I do have things I would like to aspire to, okay, but when I see bullshit like Trump one day saying something right, like the guy running Intel, how many companies is he running in China? And Marx occupied mainland China. Okay, now he's running the only business. Well, Intel's more criminal organization. We'll call Intel business for the moment, for simplicity's sake. And suddenly, like a few days later, Trump's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's fantastic. Let's keep him." That's all bullshit, all of it. And we have to use righteous force. There's no way around it. If you do not end evil, it continues to spread like a plague. People only look around and see evil getting away with all it's doing because they're protected. And we have to attack evil. There's no way around it. Because if I watered a family member's plants because they don't do that on a regular basis, and I take 5-10 minutes to water some plants, is that a normal reaction for a family member to scream at you? And when you have thousands and thousands of days where you're living with family, because I have to make a sacrifice, because no one who's 100% self-owned can do the level of stuff that I'm doing, especially in a technology business, and not take money from investors or fake investors, okay, without making sacrifices. I have no problem saying, yeah, I lived at home with family until this ripe old age. And you might say, oh, business people say, oh, you lived at home? Yeah, that's how mature. No. Those people who if whatever sacrifice the people who are watching this video, you've got to make sacrifices. You just don't. People who watch the videos that I make, they're not entitled. They're not born. They're not born with a silver spoon in the tongue. And even and the other thing is there are going by groups of people. There are people, like an example, there's a lot of like stuff controlled by different families, right? And so I don't know if that's authentic. Okay, so I don't blindly trust anything, right? And you always verify. Don't trust, verify. Okay. But he says like his family is a crime family, and he wants nothing to do with the crime. So what do what do you do when you if you're in that position? They're still your family, but they're committing crimes or maybe serious crimes. All right, but you have all these different groups of people protecting each other and vouching for each other because that's called social proofing. Oh, that criminal over there, he's okay because I'm legit because you don't know how to prove that I'm guilty, even though that's what they do. Social proofing. You say, I'm disregarding your social proofing, and you're protecting a criminal, and we know this person's a criminal, and the fact that you're going out of your way to protect this criminal. And they will literally, there's someone made a very interesting picture. It's like a clock, all right? And it shows like all the different angles, and they control. There's the dial. Okay. So another attack right there. And they probably turn up the dial, whatnot. So imagine being, they have weapons that make you emotionally volatile. They have all these weapons. They can, an example, a lot of what they do, especially for male, because most of my viewers are male, what they'll do is they will try to find out what your sexual preferences are, and they will try to get you in close proximity to people of that sexual preference, and then they can attack you with a weapon that will sexually arouse you, all right? And there's other things that they can do. They got all this shit on camera, all right? All of this stuff, all of this is about control, and you reject control because it's all evil. Better dead than red. Better to sell your life in the attempt to free yourself from evil and tyranny, and to not serve evil people who don't actually care. You're just a tool to them. I'm a tool to them. They don't give a shit about anyone. They don't give a shit about anything, right? That cop that ended up shooting his boss, the guy running a gang rape, dungeon, right? At some point, when is that going to be you? At some point, if they kill 100 million Americans and people are making $5 an hour, which is one of their predictions, okay, we could stop this potentially, but you have to talk about this. You have to say, I'm not going to be a pussy ass and be afraid. No, you have to say, I'm going to man the fuck up. I'm gonna learn. I don't know, but I know I need to learn because they have the 2030 agenda, okay, and America is one of the most populous countries in the world, and they want to reduce the population, okay? And so you either dial the volume up again. You either mature and grow as a person, and you become aware of their attacks and how this stuff works. You're not obsessive about it, but you do have to talk about it. You do have to engage and learn and research. And don't use Google for doing this research stuff. Use something like DuckDuckGo or the other search engines, and you make sure it's not like Google based or like a different website that has Google in the background. Okay, like the Brave browser is actually it's just Google. Right, Vivaldi is just Google. It's a Google Chrome or whatnot. So that's an example. You have to be aware of this stuff, because here's the thing: is like I'm sold on the idea that my life is going to be absolutely amazing. Maybe my life will actually be absolutely amazing. But they're destroying the lives of other people. Other people who, if they were given a chance, could make something of themselves, really contribute to society, or at least be a contributing member of society and doing okay and happy and content with what they have. But slavers don't care about that. Slavers only care about themselves. And there's just no redemption for someone who is willing to destroy other people's lives for their own personal gain. There's just not. So, yeah, I don't want to post these videos. I don't want to have to be on a planet where evil is completely out of control. All right? Um, I reject evil. Absolutely. And if I ever, if someone watches me at some point in the future and they see me and interpret me as doing something that's not right, or even blatantly wrong, that's not me. And they've got clone. They can clone people. They can do MKUltra. They can make you say things. What are we gonna do? Walk around with tinfoil hats on all the time? We have to attack evil. We have to. If being evil means you get shot, if being evil means you end up in the dungeon instead of good people, that's a pretty damn good incentive to not be evil. And that's the kind of things we need to be doing. Remember, they can control your body movements. They can control what you say. They can control what you feel, your emotions. They control all that stuff. They manipulate people based off of groups, beliefs, etc. You know, when I first heard about things like Satanism, I'm like, okay, well, it's the weird name. I don't kind of trust the name, all right. But oh, okay, this sounds sound and logical and whatnot. But when you start looking at closer to what cultists are doing, and you have someone using electronic warfare to literally attack a family member to make a satanic symbol with their hand, someone who would definitely not be satanic. All right, no, the mental profile is completely gone. Okay, and you have 3 of your closest family members refusing to bring you 1 mile while you're in agonizing pain. And you can't. I mean, this is just some of thousands of examples, literally thousands of examples of things that you pick up. And as you become aware of the things that really stand out, you become aware of the smaller things that don't stand out as much. When you push up the mattress to get up, and there's a pain in your palm. All right, this is the mark of the devil. It's slaver parasite bullshit. Okay, I'm no one's slave. Someone thinks I'm their slave, and it's just a matter of time until there's a bullet in their head, because that's what a real man does. Death to traitors. I can't make decisions for other people. If other people make bad decisions, that's their call. That's either their bad logic, or they gave into, they're going to get everything they want, and all they have to do is destroy other people's lives. So, just the most important thing I could say is, do not be afraid. Now, don't go out of your way to cause trouble, because you can easily find trouble if you go looking for trouble. But be quiet, do the research. Don't go on don't use a Chrome-based browser, for crying out loud. Use Firefox or WaterFox or Pale Moon. Look up which browsers are Chrome browsers, and then don't use any of those. Don't use Google for researching. Google is biased. You have to research. When you hear bullshit arguments like, "Oh, that's not going to hold up in court," because there's no courts. You have criminal bankers office pretending to be court, and of course they have everything rigged against you unless you do something like you say, "I am the living man." And you have to be aware of fraud by persons, fraud by tacit consent, fraud by there's so many. You have to do the research. So I wish I could have structured the video. I don't have time to do timestamps. I have to do things, and I have a lot of pressure on my shoulders because I'm forced into a lot of these situations. But the beautiful thing is that I'm not greedy. I don't need a lot. I need more than $2,000 a year, okay? But I don't need a lot. And so, I've already called them out, and they keep doing this bullshit. And I'm making it abundantly clear. As abundantly fucking clear as I can possibly make it. I know. I've already got my guards up. I'm not going to be romantically entangled with anyone here in Florida. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in a subtropical hellhole sweating my ass off every day of my life. Because someone rigged my family to meet a loser and drag my family down to Florida. Now, if you like Florida, that's fine. You have the right to like or dislike whatever you want. That's fine, okay? But I'm not going to allow other people to dictate my life, because then it's not really my life. If people, oh, we want to take care of John and we'll take care of him, good care of him in Florida. $2,000 a year of money. That's all I've made the past 3 years straight, right? Probably less. Okay, that's not taking care of someone. That's control. That's slavery. Well, that's intended slavery. But slavery is a mentality, and if you give in the fear, then you're a slave. But if you say, I reject slavery and I embrace knowledge and wisdom, and you seek knowledge and wisdom, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult no matter what. But the fight, that's what matters. And if we don't fight back, we lose everything. All of humanity is lost if we don't fight back. Because the technology they're making, if these Marxist slaver parasites win, every alien species that's worth interacting with, we'll just say that's a completely failed species. That's what we're looking. Even if we exist and live, all right, technically living, not like you're living your life and you're free. I mean technically living, all right. Then it's all lost, and all the amazing things and all the money in the world and all the amazing experiences doesn't matter for shit. If I am doing amazing, and if I only controlled everything, if I ran the world or whatever obnoxious thing, it doesn't matter if everyone's enslaved. Because I have suffered, and I know what suffering feels like. I've felt agonizing pain. I know what agonizing pain feels like. I have seen others deal with this stuff and have no idea what's going on. They have no idea that they're under attack. They have no idea about electronic weapons. You think of go like a few hundred years ago, but you know everything you do, and you have a phone, and you could show them a video and whatnot. You go up to say, "What's between you and I?" To like a king. The king says, "There's nothing between you and I." What's between you and I? Air. Okay. You bring that here to the 21st century. What's between you and I? Why does my phone work? Why don't I have 5 billion wires coming out of the bottom of my phone? Why? Because the phone's wireless. What's between you and I? Radiation. 5G radiation, 4G, 3G. Eventually they're going to have 6G, probably. All that other jazz. Okay? So it's there whether you realize it or not. Whether you're going to say, I'm gonna embrace responsibility, because you cannot be free unless you are responsible. You have to be responsible for yourself. You have to be responsible for those who cannot be responsible for themselves. It's so important. And it's regrettable that a lot of people have given in to this stuff. And you can sympathize to an extent. They didn't know at first. They had no idea. We're going to rule the world, or we're going to do this, or whatever. Most people don't know. Now, yeah, there's always going to be jackasses that were complete waste of atomic mass to begin with. Okay, but how many of those people, if they had known better, right? That's why they suppress freedom of speech. Why they say, "Oh, that's hate speech. You shouldn't hate the person who raped your wife, or the person who murdered your brother, or the person who committed this crime, or whatever." That's all fascism. It's corporate bullshit, and everything corporate. Commerce is criminal. Commerce is not business. Business is business. Commerce is criminal activity pretending to be business. So, anyway, I really don't want to have to keep shooting these videos, but I'm going. It's a huge part of my life. I mean, I don't really have my life because I'm still in Florida, okay? But I got to keep making these videos because, they say, well, John wouldn't do that. John wouldn't speak. Oh, John's going to speak. Okay, then we're going to change what John is. Then you don't get John. I'm John Belucki. John Belucki III. Okay? But if they change me, if they're able to destroy my brain, they don't really have me. Then the amazing things I'm working on, it loses context. So they destroy the thing that they're trying to control. They can't get around that. And all of this is about delusion. I reject delusion. I'm a philosophical realist. I want to see what is real. I want to see what I see because that's what's there. Okay, but I can't see infrared. I can't see ultraviolet. Right? But we know it's there because we have technology that extends our ability to sense the world around us. Okay, and I don't go based off of belief. I reject belief. Belief is you believe something that no, I do levels of probability. Okay, someone said this 50-50. It sounds it sounds sound, but I don't have any way of verifying it. But it comes together. Okay, and if it's worth my time on that topic, I go out and I'll verify the topic. Okay, um, 10% probability. Maybe it's possible. Like I've been wrong about things before, and trust me when I say I like finding out I'm wrong about stuff. I love finding out I'm wrong about stuff because I focus a lot about the evil in and around my life. I don't have a choice. It's so constant and so persistent. It's controlling. It's dictative. It's Marxist slaver parasite shit. Even if the cops themselves don't give a shit about Marxism and slavery or whatever, right? And they're not making tons of money apparently, okay, which tells you that they're probably on contracts. And the contract has to get to the point where, like, if I die or become permanently incapacitated and they can't resuscitate me or something like that, or I can't, then they're probably not going to do well. All right, and so they only get paid if I get to like a certain point. You could, what do I do with my business? I got to work on contracts. I have to have the positive incentive. That's what they probably have to deal with. And I really don't want to hate people. I really don't. I've enjoyed, I remember going biking with one. Had a lot of fun with him. And then the last time I saw him, he's like, hey, come, we're going to work on this thing and make a bunch of money. And all he was doing is wasting my time playing fucking video games. And then I said, hey, contact me on my website. And he says, kill fat bitches. Back when they were doing the whole, kill John because we don't like the fact that he would hold people, criminals, accountable, right? Because cops are criminals, right? To varying degrees, there's criminal intention and whatnot. That's very disappointing. I didn't hate the guy, but I didn't even know he was a cop. I think that's part of the point. Okay, I helped another one move. And I had a pretty good feeling that he was a cop for a long time too. I discovered other people were cops. Well, there's a guy who used to. I used to go to Burger King. I try not to eat out, okay, but it's kind of hard to do anything when you're making $2,000 an entire year. Okay, he's not really. Find out, he's like, I post, hey, I'm under attack by cops. Likes to post on Facebook. Okay, that's who's on duty. They will literally let you know who's on duty sometimes, or duty, or who's on shift. I don't want to hate people, but you are your actions. Like if you're angry about something, you can go punch someone's face, or you can go punch a punching dummy. What does that difference tell you? How you handle yourself, how you conduct yourself. Now, I don't know if people are still holding grudges because I've made it clear that whoever's controlled, and the cops are controlled by Freemasons, all right? But I don't know if it was, 13 months ago when the Freemasons or whoever decided, hey, we know that maybe some of the cops like John. I don't think of myself as unlikable. All right, I don't want to think of myself as unlikable. I'm fighting all I can do to do well and help people. Okay, so it would make a lot of sense. That I know. How do we get the cops that like John to do shit to John that they wouldn't normally do? I know. Let's bring someone in who's going to go out of his way to go to fake courts and bring up the topic of recording cops and not being allowed to record, and that will very clearly trigger John, that's me, okay, and there in turn will piss off the cops for literally, half a year or something like that, okay, and that's all this controlling bullshit, right? And by the way, a lot of these things, like for example, there will be lessons. They're using cops to teach me lessons, like not to not to be like reactive, right? But the cops who are implementing these lessons don't follow those lessons themselves. Now, I don't know if that's a personality quirk with one or multiple of them. I don't know if like which ones have a power trip. Oh, look what I could do with John's life, or whatever, or this or that. I don't know. You know, um, but the thing is that if we don't talk about this, we have to openly talk about this. We have to have communication. By me, I mean people in general. You know, uh, and there are good cops, and I'm not saying to suck up to the cops. All right, I am, I've done research, because there's websites dedicated to all the abuse by cops. Okay, and there are cops that lose jobs trying to stop rape and murder. That cop that shot the police chief, in the video I saw the other night. Right, that man's a hero. All right, now yes, it takes a lot to get to that point, and no one wants to be in that position. But it's when you look at someone who's willing to take do something heroic, we got to protect those people. Now, if he did any of the rape and stuff like that, then yeah, that's terrible. But where do we measure? Because at some point, you know, we don't have to worry about that police chief anymore. He's dead. He's gone. That's fantastic. Not because he's a police chief, but because he took advantage of his position of power to create a rape dungeon. And you have to be aware that people, Marxist slave or parasites, they want people to fight. They want there to be conflict. All right. So that's why 13 months ago that guy was brought in. All right. And you've got to be aware when someone new comes into the scene. Why are they there? What is the purpose? Is it another bullshit lesson? Is it to say, hey, okay, we've used the cops over here, and they don't really hate John, neutral, maybe a little positive or whatever. But we're going to put a device in John because John says he's against slavery. All right, and so we got to piss off the cops and get them to the point where they're making threats to shoot John, right, and shoot him dead, right, and break into the house and whatnot. So how do we do that? I know. We'll bring this guy in and create this topic. It's all the shit is planned. They're manipulating cops just as much as as manipulating me. People don't realize this stuff. Everyone on every level is being manipulated. And you just have to, Now, I don't want anyone to take my word for any of this stuff. I want people to go out and verify. So you look at your life and say, who's attacked you? Why are you living where you're living now instead of where you could be living? Why are you making the money now instead of the money you could be making? Why are you doing, a job that, isn't fulfilling or isn't, you don't feel like you're a productive member of society? And maybe people are lucky that they don't feel those questions are justifiable for them, right? But I think a large portion of us can justifiably ask those questions. And we shouldn't be having to ask those questions. We should be saying, I need to be aware. So, because awareness, learning knowledge, filtering knowledge, unlearning bad knowledge, propaganda, all right? You look at people, not everyone's going to be rational. You'll come across, some black guy who's half-cocked and kill all the whiteys and whatnot, and you'll come across a black guy who's like, hey, no, I get it. I don't hate you because of your color. And then you got this other black guy who's like, yes, I do hate you because they've sent black rapists walking down the road with a European woman, right? And he knows he was a rapist. And they sent that rapist there for whatever reason, right? And he refused that Irish, and I'm part Irish, I'm like 10% Irish, right? Refused to acknowledge that Irish people were enslaved by the English. Refused to acknowledge that Europeans were enslaved by Arab, people, in Arab states. that the Europeans used to enslave each other, the Romans and whatnot. Oh no, only black people were enslaved. That was propaganda in his head. And that was justification for raping a European woman. And she has no idea because she thinks it's normal because of the propaganda. Look, I respect other people. You just respect me. But no one should be raping anyone else's woman. No one should be raping, period. It's all there, whether you refuse to look at it or not. And I don't mean spend every waking hour on negativity and all the crime and the evil. No. But you do need to research, you do need to learn, you need to be aware, especially men. Women definitely need to be aware. Keep your purse in front of you, not behind you, where someone can pickpocket. So basic stuff like that. You should always have a firearm on you. If you can afford, like $500 to $1,000, you can afford a firearm. You can afford to protect your life, because your life, if you are not committing crimes, your life has value. If the more you contribute to society, and the more potential you have to contribute to society, the more you are worth protecting. Even if you haven't found your way. And the guy, I'll give you an example, older folks. The guy who founded KFC was like in his 60s by the time he finally made it. But he founded it. How many KFCs are there? There's like one in every major city, right? I'm not going to talk about food quality and whatnot, and there's all the other topics. But your value, if you're alive and you're willing to contribute, your life has value, and you have the absolute, undeniable, unrevocable right to protect yourself. I've been denied the right to protect myself. I can't afford to buy a firearm. Okay, so I got to rely on people who literally attack my family and me. By the way, that's not how it should be. So it just, I had back in 2004, was it? There was a rigged accident. Another black guy, by the way. Not all black people are terrible people. There are respectable black people, right? But another black guy hit and run, took off, and that was it. My car's toast, and I couldn't afford insurance because I'm struggling to go through what I thought was a college, okay, and it didn't teach me anything other than that college is a complete waste of time and money. I'm completely self-taught. You see the amazing work that I do, whether you acknowledge it or not. Whether I meet someone, someone watching this video, and I can acknowledge the amazing work that they do, or the circumstances they work themselves out of, taking years, if not decades. It's taking me decades to work my way out of this, and I'm forced to tolerate this behavior and this bullshit. I like to look at it this way. Thomas Sowell, again, he's a black guy. Okay? He's still alive. Okay? He didn't know that he was doing evil. And he found redemption. Because he saw what... He realized what he was doing after what he had done. And he rejected evil. And we have the potential with the technology to negate evil. Like if you have a problem, like an example, if someone really does have a mental illness, and they really on their own without, because some people do have some severe mental illnesses that aren't caused by drugs, that aren't caused by whatever, okay? And you can give proper medicine. By the way, is nature-based. Drugs are from pharmaceutical farm. PHARM, farm. Okay, just like NASA, not a space agency. That's all there. You just gotta look. You got to say, I don't know, but I want to know. Not see things because you want to see things, but see things because you cannot deny the overwhelming the patterns. Learning is the detection of patterns. You stick your finger into a fan over and over again, it's painful. Stop doing it. And some patterns you don't have to learn, you just know. And everyone's on a different level. Everyone's on their own level. I think most people are trying to do the best they can with the life and the circumstances they have, but we all have to be taught this. I don't know what else I can say. I don't really want to, rant and do like a 2-hour video. I have to compress the crap out of this video and post it to YouTube and post the links all everywhere, whatnot, and probably, I don't know, more than like even 10 people will see this video that aren't cops or satanics people, or you know what, I don't hate people because they're a cop or a Satanist or Freemasons, but it's the shit people do that makes me hate, and someone raped someone you loved, you should hate them. That's just the way it works. And, just do the best you can with your circumstances. And, hopefully there will be people who see these videos saying, no, that looks like John, but the spot there, maybe that's a clone, or it's a guy wearing a mask, or maybe they did destroy his brain and he's not able to properly process something. Download the source videos. That's why I'm posting these videos. So if ever one day you see me, it looks like me, and it might be physically me, but something happened up here because they destroyed who I am. Because this, your mind, is ultimately who you are. But the mind requires the brain. You destroy the brain, you destroy the mind. And I reject evil. I reject the notion of becoming more agreeable. I don't agree with evil. Like you see the black and white tiles on floors. That's supposed to be the whole good and evil. Here's the thing. All this technology, we can replace, like if someone has an insufferable urge to attack people, give them a robot or give them a dummy or something. And work to figure out these issues. We've got trillions and trillions of dollars that criminals are stealing to do research. Why not research things to help people, right? Because when you attack and control other people, there's nothing but justified resentment, anger, and hatred. And the moment they have a chance, they go after those slaver parasites. And you cannot, like that cop that shot his police chief that was running a rapist dungeon, he's off the hook. Let's get some information. Who else is doing the rapes? Right? Celebrate that man. Okay? The police that get fired for stopping rapes and murders and you're not allowed to criticize the police because it's attack on one is attack on all. I have a picture of filthy Marxist parasites with a huge banner. An attack on one is an attack on all. That's a slaver parasite mentality. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a badge or not. Good is good, evil is evil. End of story. And you either help people who are good, you're indifferent, or you can't really be neutral when it comes to good or evil. You could be not sure what to do. That's a possibility. Okay? Because remember what I said earlier about neutrality. Neutrality is a beautiful thing. If it's actual neutrality, not feigned neutrality, not bullshit neutrality. Anyway, yeah, you guys can contact me and have conversations. If I think it's legitimate, I'm happy to converse. I'm happy to give answers. I could throw up a Discord server, open a channel, and show you guys some of the stuff that goes on. Give you guys, like, how do I learn if this is happening? How do I interpret this? Here's an example of what's going on in my life. What I want to help people. So, we'll find out what happens, but people need to start standing up for themselves. I will never attack a group. You're born as whoever you're born as. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But it's your actions that matter. Words, they matter to an extent, but the actions are what count ultimately. I'm John Balucki. Download the source video. Have a copy. Thank you for watching. Good luck.